Hey, welcome to the Cam and Otis show. Remember, 2020, our word for the year is
Ooh,
focus.
2021.
Oh, geez, see, I'm not even focused on 2020. Oh,
See,
there I am again. Oh,
it's February now, so that's inexcusable. You can get
wow,
away with
yeah.
that crap in January, Dad, but we're in the big leagues now.
Well, it's okay though. I can claim old man. I've got
There
that
you go.
issue, right? So start over. The word for tribe and purpose for the year 2021 is focus.
Mm.
And then we did in January, we did beginning, no surprise there. In February, we're on clarity. And last week, if you haven't listened to it, jump back and listen to that last
Mhm.
episode about why clarity is important. Because today, what we're going to talk about is how do you get clarity? How do you figure that out? We talked about it a little bit, but what we want to do today is walk you through that process. How do you go from, I don't know, or I don't even know how to spell clarity to bam, I got this. I know where to go, how to go. And that's what we're doing. Cam.
I- I'm laughing to myself over here because I have written clarity so many times, typed it up, written it in my book so many times over the last 2 weeks that I started questioning how to spell it a few times last couple of days. So that one hit right at home.
Yeah.
But
So you that little self-doubt in your clarity.
And I think a little self-doubt's healthy because it keeps you checking yourself and make sure that you are clear in what you're looking at. Okay. I think that a little bit of self-doubt every now and then is really useful. Well, that's a whole nother tangent though. I'm going to save us from that rabbit hole. That's an
Yeah.
episode in itself. But,
We are going
you
to be
know,
focused on clarity, right?
right. And so once you understand, the importance of clarity, which is really what we talked about a lot last week, what your life can look like after you have clarity, what it's like on a daily basis, and what clarity really means. Now we're kind of kicking into that second level, which is going to be what is the actual process for achieving this clarity and for having this kind of clarity on a, nearly daily basis. It's not perfect, hard to teach perfection, right? But you're going to have it on a regular basis when you have these kind of tools, because whenever you stray, just like when you have that moment of self-doubt that you just pointed out, you're able to go back to it because you do have that backbone of clarity. And so the three sections really, when you're talking about going through the process to achieve clarity, really you're going to start off with your self-awareness, understanding who you are, because if you don't know who you are, if you don't understand much about yourself, it's really hard to coach yourself. And that's really what a lot of clarity is about, is coaching yourself. That's the way I view it for myself as a coach.
Yeah.
Then the next step from there is you're going to want to start building that vision for the future. So we talked a lot about this last week, how just having a vision, even if it's not actually what it's going to be like 10 years from now, having a vision of what you want your life to look like is extremely useful in helping to motivate you to keep working on it. And it helps to define what your daily life is going to look like. And once you have a little bit of a definition of what you want your life to look like in the future and what that means on a daily basis, then you start moving towards your goals.
Yeah. And so I want to jump back. Thanks for that kind of overarching thing. I mean, we'll wrap it up and walk away, right? But I want to dive into that a bit more because clarity means several different things and
Mhm.
is in several different instances, if you will. You mentioned that self clarity, understand having clarity, a clear understanding of who you are and where you are. And you know, I always go back to my land navigation. The more accurate I am on where I am on that map, the better route planning I'm going to have
Mhm.
in getting to where I want to go. So if you think about that sense and that self-awareness, the more understanding, the clearer understanding I have of who I am, and that goes in a lot of different things. And we're not going to take the time to dive into all those things, but it's not just it's what excites you, what pisses you off, what guides you, what what do you like to do, what do you not like to do, what can you overcome, what are you good at. Some people talk about your superpower. That's a
Mhm.
good way of talking about it. All of these sort of things combine into who you are, and having that clear understanding, that clarity of who you are, gives you that start point for
Mhm.
where you want to go. People blow that off. I mean, they truly do. And I find it really interesting because in this day and age, there's a lot of folks out there that everybody, I mean, that's a lot of folks, everybody uses some form of GPS tool on their phone to
Mhm.
get from their house to somebody else's house, a bar, restaurant, or whatever. Guaranteed.
Yep. Yep.
Several times a week. Well, you know what? That thing don't work unless it knows where you are. Bottom line, period.
Mhm.
I mean, I've been around the block a couple of times and used some really old GPSs, the ones that were like in a box about, this big. Uh,
No, I don't know.
yeah, well, just take my word for it. We did. And even then, that thing had to have a clear view of the sky so that the satellites could triangulate on it and
Mhm.
knew where it was and inputted the coordinates, translated the coordinates into that location, correct? That's what our phones do now. It's pretty cool. But that's the same thing as who we are. If you can't triangulate your position, where you're at today, what are those things that drive you forward? You ain't got to have, I mean, believe me, you ain't got to have this down to the microscopic level,
Mhm.
but you better have a good clear idea of understanding of who you are so that you could launch off and go forward. And that's what I want to focus on. I want to help everybody understand that you got to look at yourself. You got to reflect. And what does reflect mean? Reflect means look back.
Mhm.
What happened? It's holding up the mirror. I mean, there's a little bit difference. You hold up the mirror and then reflection. That's the analogy, the metaphor. How about that, Camden? The metaphor for reflecting and looking back at what's happened in your life. And as you reflect back on what's happened in your life, you can analyze those things that motivate or demotivate you
Mhm.
and how those things come into play for what your purpose is so that you can have clarity.
Mhm.
Clarity in where you are today, that triangulation of where you are today, so then we can start making the plan for where you want to go.
We talked a lot last week about recognizing what you have control over and what you don't have control over, and then recognizing the effects that those things have on you. And when I think about reflection and self awareness, that's what a lot of it comes down to for me, is understanding why you feel certain ways at certain times of the day. Maybe you're a night person, maybe you're a morning person. There's a really simple example of just basic mindfulness right there, recognizing when you have energy to work and working during that time instead of trying to make yourself work when you're tired. Little things like that are just looking back and saying, okay, I can look at my day, I can see how things went, and I can learn from this. It's the reason why every stoic talks about putting your day up for review. You have to look back at what you did in order to understand where you are and to improve yourself from there. Here's a fun little example I had the other day. I was listening to Sturgill Simpson's Cutting Grass record, great bluegrass, and I went, holy crap, bluegrass puts me in a good mood. And I wrote that down. And now every time I'm sitting down to work and I don't feel like I've really got it, I don't put on the jazz stuff that I listen to while I am working. I put on bluegrass and I go, okay, get a few songs like this going, and I get my energy level up. I recognized by looking back and reflecting that this was something that was outside that I can use. It's a part of my environment, and I can use it as a positive part of my environment to push myself forward. And so when you're reflecting back on things, that's an easy, fun example of music. There's all sorts of little things like that, interacting with the people in your house, interacting with your dog, interacting with your friends, calling family. All these little things have effects on you. And you have to be able to honestly look back, because it all starts with honest reflection. And you have to be able to look back and see, how do those things make me feel? How do I feel when I get off the phone with my mom? Do I feel energized? Do I feel motivated? Do I want to go to sleep?
Careful, she
What is it?
listens.
I know she listens too. But it goes back to that honest reflection of really looking, not only how did that make me feel, but why did it make me feel that way? What is it about it that gets me pissed off or gets me excited? And when you start to understand the inner workings of those things, you start to understand your mind a little bit more, and you can build off of that because you understand yourself.
I just got to give you one psychoanalysis thought on the bluegrass energizing you.
Hit
You
me,
know
doc.
why? Huh?
Hit me, doc. Let's see.
Oh, okay. It's because it's knee slapping music. and motion creates emotion.
Mm. That,
There you go.
oh yeah, because I start tapping my foot, slapping my knee when that stuff comes on.
There you go.
It's
That's it.
perfect. Hey, well, so there's your little tidbit. If you're getting nothing else out of the episode, music that makes you want to dance is good because it'll give you energy and help you work.
There you go. Love that. Love that. So now you have an understanding of how to figure out get clarity in who you are, your self-awareness, have a clear self-awareness. Now, like Camden said, that reflection at the end of each day and reflections in at the end of each week and month and so on and year and all those sort of things. You continue to do that because you continue to learn about yourself. So don't just put yourself up on a shelf, say, got it, moving out. You're always going to learn it. But you've got now, by doing these things, you have an understanding of who you are. You have a much clearer picture in who you are. So we've triangulated our position to know who we are right now. So we can also use those things, those moments of reflection, to understand who we want to be. And that's the next step. The part two of this, part one, understand yourself. Part two, create that vision for who you want to be and understand what's that like. And this is, I work with a lot of people in this, and it's really an interesting thing that folks have a hard time with that. And part of that, and you've talked about this before on some previous episodes, is that imposter syndrome. Do I really deserve that? Or am I being selfish because, I want land, or I want a big house, or I want a new truck.
How dare you?
Yeah. It's like, well, yeah, how dare you? But instead, if you really want that, you should set that up and figure out how to get there. Because that's what our vision is. And the great thing about life is we have a vision and we can walk towards that vision. And as we walk towards it, we gain clarity. And we gain clarity in what that vision is and who we are as we journey towards it. I'll talk about the journey in just a moment, but the first part is you got to know which way you're walking. And sometimes it is, hey, I want that new truck. Okay. How do you get that new truck? Well, got to have money. Okay. So how are you going to get money? You're going to do this, this, and this, and this, right? I know I'm getting into a bit of the plan, but that's my bad habit of that. But going back to that, if you realize for some reason you don't want a new truck and you want a sedan, I don't know why.
Could barely even put any wood in it. What are you going to do? You're not going to be able to build a shed. You probably can't even build a fire pit with this sedan.
I know.
Pointless.
I know. It's a tough life if all you got's a sedan.
Yeah.
But what happens in our life, we get more data, right? As we get closer to what we want, what I want today, the vision I have for 5 years from today is a guess. And as I walk closer to it, I gain clarity in that guess, because that's all it is. I'm projecting it. I'm taking action to get closer to it. And this is a beautiful thing about when you decide on what your purpose is. Sometimes you get right up to it and you just pivot right off of it and you find something else, because now you can pivot into it. Like I was reading something the other day about a guy who believed his purpose in life was to write music and be the guy behind the scenes. And as he put in all this effort and was writing songs and walking down this path and working with people, and then one day he picked up a guitar and he started playing that guitar, and he realized that yes, music was part of his purpose, but that clarity was not to write it, not to produce it, but to play the guitar. And that's the cool thing about it when you have that action to do.
And I can honestly really relate to that example. I as I've gone through with my entrepreneurial journey, it was something where when I got bit by the entrepreneurial bug, when I lost my clarity by not being able to play rugby anymore, and I was confused on what was happening, I didn't know what direction I wanted to go in. I latched onto this entrepreneurship as I want to own a business. I want to be the guy. I want to do all of that stuff. As I've gone through the process and I started moving closer, not that I'm that guy by any measure of the phrase,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Will
But
be.
as I moved down, I realized, okay, well, if this is my purpose, how am I squaring that with other things that I feel like are my purpose, like coaching in business, coaching rugby? How do those things all tie up? And I realized it's not entrepreneurship, it's not problem solving, it's helping people. Because when I boiled down what I was trying to do as an entrepreneur, I was trying to solve problems. Why do I like to solve problems? Because I want to help the person that's having the problem. And I had that moment where I went, oh my gosh, the purpose is, it's still the same direction, but it's a slightly different meaning. And that's the kind of adjustments that you make as you keep moving towards those goals, especially once you have that kind of clarity.
Yeah. Well, and I'm going to shift because I've been itching to it, and I already did a little bit of a prelude on how you plan for it, and it's really similar to how you reflect and analyze who you are.
Mm-hmm.
You peel back that onion, what are the parts and pieces, and how do those parts and pieces fill in and fit in to create who you are and how you feel and react. We're going to do the same thing with that vision. Like I started talking about with the truck, that was my teaser, my in-show teaser for step 3 for finding your clarity.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you create that vision of whatever it is within your purpose. So your purpose kind of gives you the big picture sort of guide. Like I like to say, hey, we're going to do some stuff over here. My purpose is going to guide me over here.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm going to do with that is create my vision, which guides me to my successes within my purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds a little complicated, but once you start putting the effort in and capturing these things and stepping these things down and breaking it down, it's going to come really clear because I create that vision for where I want to go, what I want to achieve, and then I take that vision and I break it down into elements.
Mm-hmm.
So elements, elephant, right? So my vision is the big elephant, and I got to break my elephant down into what am I having for dinner tonight? Well, I'm going to have the left calf muscle and blah, 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 and break it all down like that, right? That's what I'm doing. I'm breaking that element down. Like I was talking about, if I want that new truck, well, I got to make money. Okay, how do I make money? Oh, well, I sell more of this, or I go get an extra job, or whatever it is. And you start to break these elements down and they become into your actions. And that's how you get that clarity in what to do in your life. When you understand those things, then, and this is one of the coolest things that I always like to talk about. When you have clarity on that, then your white space is always filled. And I'll define white space really quick. White space is so you think about your schedule for the day. You got to do something at 8 o'clock. You got something at 9:30, something at noon, blah, blah, like that. And then all of a sudden that 9:30 meeting gets canceled. Boom. You just got an hour back to do what? To do what you want to do because you have clarity in the pursuit of your purpose and your vision. And now you know what to do in that white space. I mean, if you want to go watch Netflix, you can do that. It ain't going to move you any closer, but now you know what to do with that white space.
And the way I think about it is as you're kind of working backwards from your vision and you're starting to piece these things together, I think we can meet halfway on that. I know you and I are both big fans of working backwards on things. I think you can work forwards a little bit and, it comes from the end. But once you define your vision of what you want to look like and what you want your life to look like, the element there, that's the next step that I think a lot of people freeze on, is you stop and you go, ooh, I want to be a CEO. I want to have the corner office. I want to look down at everybody in my big glass windows and all that. You don't think about what that day looks like aside from that 1-second screenshot you have of looking out at your business, right? And so you have to start understanding what it looks like on a daily basis. And so you can start embodying what you really want to be like and what that looks like for you. What does that, like we talked about with clarity, what do you want to do? What do you not want to do? What you can do with this, basically, if you know what you want to look like, and you can if you can pick an example of what that looks like, you can have a little cheat sheet to start off with. We don't want to reinvent the wheel, right? You gotta take the information that's out there. It's 2021. There's a lot of people that have lived and they have a lot of knowledge, right? If you want to be a CEO, I'll use it for this specific example. Go look up, when you finish our podcast, go to freakonomics.com and pull up their Secret Life of the CEO series. And I can tell you, I did this 5 years ago, and I sat there and I listened and I listened and I listened. And I went, wow, she wakes up at what time? Like, she gets to work at 5:30. She's up at 4, and she works out and takes her kids to school, and they put this all together, and you start piecing together what that life looks like. Now, I'm not doing all of those things on a daily basis, but you can take those and start working backwards from it. Okay, hey, I'm going to have to get up at 4 a.m. in 10 years when I'm a fancy CEO. All right, we're going to start up at 5 a.m. now, and I'll build my way up to it. And you can start to embody that lifestyle, because it's going to give you the motivation that you need to be moving forward, because you'll start feeling like it. The last thing that you want is to be walking around with that imposter syndrome. That imposter syndrome, I mean, you can smell it on people even. When somebody has that imposter syndrome, you can tell they're not confident. You can tell they don't think they should be there. Now, you might want to work with them anyway because you see some real potential in them, but you can tell that they don't think they should be there. And what you do when you start taking those daily habits, making them your success habits that you're learning from someone else, you start putting it together and you start carrying that confidence because you're living with clarity.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a great example. And, it also comes into that mind of how bad do you want it?
Mm-hmm.
And something that I don't share probably often enough that comes to my mind whenever I think about that. In the special forces, in our selection, in the Q course, the qualification course, before you even get to that course, we go through a selection phase. And in that selection phase, you do a lot of hard stuff, physical action, mental things, lack of sleep, and all kinds of other things to mess with you. And the only standard is do the best that you can. And if you think about that, in that achievement, you can only do the best that you can. And you're the only one that's the judge of whether or not you're doing the best that you can to achieve that vision when you have that clarity to move on. So just got to toss that out there, because I realize that I feel like I'm doing a disservice because I haven't shared that enough. Mm-hmm. And it help you all understand that you set the standard for what the best you can do is, and you're the only one that can judge it.
Mm-hmm. And so, I think when you have clarity, when we're talking about it, and you have the clarity of what that top performance looks like, what, the CEO job looks like 10 years from now, and how you're going to look like on a daily basis, and, what all of your day is going to look like. Where you're at now. Now you're connecting those two dots together. You're looking and seeing, okay, well, all right, here's the real thing, Dad. I can't get up at 4 a.m. I'm not doing it. I can't do it. But you know what? I can start at 5:30. And after I do 5:30 for 6 months, I'm going to go to 5:15. And after 6 months, I'm going to go to 5. In 2 years, 3 years, I'm going to be down at 4 a.m. and I'll be already on that. And you have to recognize that and understand yourself in order to reach that point. So that's the reason I think, as much as we talk about working backwards on problem solving, because it is a very useful way to solve problems, really what you're doing as you're going through this process of defining your clarity is you're setting up your starting point and you're setting up your end point. And then we're mapping them back to each other and meeting in the middle there somewhere. And like you said, as we're moving towards our goals, our final step, right? Begin moving towards your goals. There's going to be adjustments. There's going to be changes. Life is going to punch you in the face. Like we say just about every single episode, things are going to happen. But when you have clarity of who you want to be, you will keep moving towards it, and you will find a new way. You will overcome those obstacles and find new ways to reach your goal, to reach your vision.
Oh, that's great. This has been great. So those 3 steps, I want to review those 3 steps, and then we're going to talk about our super special magic question. There's a hint there. Self-awareness, having that vision for what you want to do, and then the plan to get there. That's it. Simple. 3 steps. Boom, boom, boom. Anybody can do it if you put the effort in and follow the details of these steps that we talked about. So, Cam, what'd you learn?
So I got two today because I do want to reiterate what you were saying there right at the end. Just do the best you can do, and that's all you can do. That's the only standard. And I love that so much because it makes me think back to all of our rugby coaching. And we always talk about how what was the best thing about the hill for the Colorado Springs Grizzlies had a big old hill in their practice field. The good thing about the hill is that
It was
the
actually
hill
a bank. It was a bank.
Sorry. Got to get the Kiwi branding in there. The bank. That the bank could make you fitter because it could push you. When you're running on flat ground, you are the only one who can push yourself. And the reason I'm thinking of that is because I read this and I doubt it's completely true, but a motivational speaker was saying you can only do whatever you think you can do. It's only 40% of what you can really do. Right now, is that entirely true? No, but in reality, we limit ourselves on those things. And I think when you set yourself up in a challenge like this, just do the best you can, you're really getting a better taste of what that person actually has on the inside. You're understanding, and that's why it makes so much sense for special forces selection, that you're really getting that idea of, okay, well, the best you can do, how much do you think you can do? How confident are you? How much are you willing to push yourself? And that can just show so much about a person's character. So I wanted to harp on that because I loved that example. I'm glad you brought it up. But the other one I had, which is more of the joke, was I got a newfound appreciation for GPSs because since I've been alive, the biggest GPS I saw was a Garmin. It was about this big. So I don't know what kind of big box thing you're talking about there. But yeah, I got a new appreciation for how much y'all must have been going through carrying around your cassette players and GPSs all the time.
Oh yeah, our Sony Walkmans and our boom boxes. Back in the day, we didn't have music out there and on deployments with us. So just kind of back in the day. Yeah, mine, and this is something I kind of, as I was talking about it, that whole the triangulation thing, because when you I think about that and the self-awareness and these outside things is what you're using to see who you are. So if you think about going back to GPS and how it works, it's satellites, and your GPS is sending signals and back and forth to the satellite. Ding, 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 right? What? That's how it works. Okay. So if you think about your life, these outside things show you who you are and how you act and feel and react in those environments. So they're giving you the clue. These outside actions and events and things in your life and around your life give you that triangulation to understand who you are. So that's what I picked up, and I'm stuck in the old school map and triangulation and things like that. Anybody ever wants to learn how to actually read a map and use a compass? Give me a shout at tribe-purpose.com. That'll be an added service that I'll throw in as a bonus. So
I love it.
Camden, run us out.
Thank you all again for listening to today's show. Special thanks to our sponsors, Verbi Virtual Events and Tribe and Purpose. You can check out recent episodes of the Cam and Otis Show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, and check out a full archive at thecamandotisshow.buzzsprout.com. The Cam and Otis Show is on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thanks again, and we'll see y'all next week.